Here are some strategies and tips that can help you with consolidating your overhead expenses and increase your profit margins. Now, these strategies are some of which I use in my own day-to-day operations with my customers, my clients, and my own portfolio. So I hope that it helps you guys, and let's get into this. Now, number one is going to be to negotiate vendor rates and to also budget for future taxes. It's very important to keep a good standing relationship with vendors and to have long-lasting relationships with them. Okay, so I have go-to plumbing professionals, I have backup plumbing professionals, I have HVAC professionals, I have every single vendor that I could ever need in my arsenal, and I have good relationships with them. Now, over the years, I've created such a good relationship with them that now when I give them business, I have a little bit of negotiating power. I can come back to them and say, hey, listen, I've given you $50,000 over X amount of years, and I would like to ensure that this job specifically is getting the best price. Here's a different quote. Could you match this quote? Could you give me $500 off for a larger project, for example? And 9 times out of 10, my vendors do respect my questioning and negotiations, and that's again just because we have good standing relationships. Additionally, the importance of being able to budget for your future taxes is very crucial because you also want to ensure that you know what's to come in the sense of overhead maintenance and overhead expenses. Okay, so you can go ahead and you can actually contact the tax assessor and ask the tax assessor to give you your new assessed taxes that are upcoming, and they can give you a projection from a low to high range usually of what your expected costs will be. Now, this is a crucial component. If you are acquiring, you should be doing this with every single property before you acquire it. Additionally, you want to ensure that you are consolidating your platforms. Okay, so you shouldn't have 20 different platforms in order to manage and invest in real estate. Okay, yes, sometimes we need to have multiple platforms, like if you do short-term rentals and long-term rentals, that's okay. But we should not be seeing, if you're only doing long-term rentals or you're only doing short-term rentals, like 20 different types of platforms, because that's confusing. That is a very large overhead, and also like in the concept of simple organization, that's just a mess. Okay, so ensure that you are consolidating those softwares to just 1 or 2 per category, or if you can compile them all under 1 to 2, that's even better. So I have my bookkeeping, my work orders, my tenant requests, my rent charges, my tasks for myself to do, all really in one operating software. Okay, and that's my all-in-one property management software. I use DoorLoop. I have tried AppFolio, I've tried RentReady, I've tried DoorLoop. When we started, we went with RentReady. RentReady was very basic beginner. Okay, let's get our feet wet. I also tried Tenant Cloud before RentReady, and that was also the same concept. Okay for beginner, novice, and that's fine. But when you start to get up there into the professional levels, like where we are at, then you're looking at AppFolio, Buildium, and also DoorLoop. DoorLoop is my go-to. It's simple. There's no monthly contract. There's no contract. Okay, it's so much better, at least when I have been a part of it. So I don't have to worry about this crazy overhead with it, because the bills are usually always the same unless I'm using more, but then I am aware of those upfront costs. Okay, now AppFolio, the reason I don't like AppFolio, even though it is a very it's very intense software, it has a lot of features, which is why I tried it. Customer support is subpar. The overhead on that is massive. It's you're paying $1,000 for this in comparison to DoorLoop, where it might be a couple hundred. And honestly, when you have shitty customer support, you're basically paying for that by not being able to progress in certain issues. Okay, so very important to choose that software and consolidate it quick, because you need to be able to do everything underneath that 1 to 2 software housing, because if you don't, you're going to be a mess. You're going to be overspending. You're going to be like, it's just going to be like crazy. Okay, just trust me. I've gone through it. Not something you want to be doing when you're running a business. Additionally, another way is to implement energy efficient upgrades to your business and also to your units. Okay, so like adding solar. Maybe solar is a good move for you, but you really need to look at like the future savings and also the current savings. Like, is it going to be a huge difference, or is it going to be basically the same? If it's going to be basically the same, maybe solar is not right for you at this time. But maybe adding energy efficient appliances like washers and dryers and stoves, ovens, ranges, microwaves, refrigerators, freezers, like all of those types of energy efficient appliances, HVAC, that is energy efficient, going and ensuring that your properties are properly insulated, having windows that are routinely maintained and upgraded to ensure that the energy efficiency is good. Those are all additional ways to ensure that when it comes to your utilities and those expenses, that you are saving. Okay, let's say that you're including some type of utility for your tenant. That's a great way to ensure that you're saving on that. Also, it's a great way to attract energy friendly tenants, which means that their consumption of energy is going to be a little bit lower in comparison to the non-energy efficient appliance tenant users. Okay, now internally, how we could upgrade for energy efficiency is just by ensuring that like we're not overusing spaces. Okay, so for me, one of my ways that I overused a space is I went out and I rented from a private landlord an office space, and that was okay, right? Like it worked, but whatever. But it was such a waste of money. It's like I was spending $600 almost every single month paying this private landlord who like could care less, about me. And I'm paying for like this profit margin of this guy, but then I'm expensing from my own. Okay. And I understand that for some businesses, yes, you have to have that storefront. Yes, you have to have that office. But for most of us, we don't necessarily need that. A lot of us, we go to our complexes. A lot of us, we go to the buildings. We go to the houses. We go to the customer. We are not needing an office space. Okay, so if you can get rid of or minimize your office space, this is another very, very quick and easy way, possibly, depending if you're in a contract, to be able to overcome this expense and minimize it. Okay, you don't need a 15,000 square foot office space. You might be able to adapt to a smaller one, or maybe you can go 100% online and have an in-house office space. That's what I've done, and honestly that was the best move for me, because why am I spending $600 when I barely even have 1 to 2 people come in a month? Like that's crazy. The only people that were coming in were people looking for work, and like, what? How is that benefiting me? That's not benefiting me. How is that benefiting my customers? It's not benefiting them. How is it benefiting my tenants? It's not. Okay, so like, why are we continuing to spend on this overhead? Oh, well, it looks professional. No, it's stupid. It's stupid. Why? Like, because of your opinion of professionalism, I should have an office? Absolutely not. I have an office right here, and this thing is freaking cooler than it was before because it's mine. I own it. And like the money is going back into my business to serve my customers and clients. That is professionalism to me. That is smart savings to me. Okay. Now that's just one of the awesome ways that I have been able to consolidate that overhead, and I think it's great. I'm more of a digital person. I'm a millennial to a T, just because of the fact that I would much rather be working from my home office and then going on site to my properties than having that physical location and being like, I'm in an office cubicle and I'm spending $600 to be here. I barely see my family now. I'm like, I don't want to do that. That doesn't say financial freedom to me. Okay. Additionally, we can cut costs with letting go of unnecessary workers. Okay. maybe we have an admin that is just working too many hours. Maybe we move them to a part-time position or an on-call position or at contract at will, position instead of having them full-time. There's also so many administrative per minute services where it's like for phone calls, emails, and you can hire those services at will call rather than having somebody consistently on the books. Okay. And that's just another way to be making and saving money. Okay. Now, another concept of being able to just save yourself some money is to organize and prioritize your essential tasks. Hold on. Okay. So when it comes to essential tasks, you really just want to ensure that you're automating as much as you can, because again, when we're looking from like an administrator job viewpoint, okay, we don't want people working unnecessarily. We want to simplify the process. We want to make it so we're not even thinking about it. It's just happening, and we go back, we review, it's done. Okay. We need a procedure here. This is the only way that our businesses are really going to be at the top profit margins. So automate as much as you can. Automate those rent charges, the late fees, the reminders, the deliveries of filters, automate everything. And there's so many additional ways to make additional money from this automation factor, right? So like, let's say that your tenants are able to, or they're responsible for the HVAC filters. Okay. So you could put into their lease contracts that, every, I don't know, quarter or as you, the landlord, decide, within reasonability, like a filter delivery, and that being their responsibility and it being at this cost per, month. And that's in addition to rent. It's additional rent. If you can do that, obviously have your attorneys review your contracts just to ensure that the verbiage is correct for you, but you could add an additional processing fee to that. So like if the filter is $25, then you could add a $10 profit margin. And you're probably like, oh, well, that's not that much, and like, you're right, it's not. But if you have 100 units and you're doing that for all the 100 units, it is, right? Now we made even more money. So there's so many ways to automate and to make more. Also, when you're automating those late fees, this is a great way to ensure that you are charging those late fees. And the great thing that I like about like DoorLoop is they have that summarized statement report. So you can look at your categories and see like, okay, well, we had like 100 late fees charged this month, and there is like a positive margin of like, let's just say $8,000 in late fees for this month. I need to expense that because that is my money, and that goes into my reserves, and that goes into my profits. Okay. And that's again why it's so important to have these automated systems in our own procedures, because that's really what's going to help us catch on to making the additional money, keeping that additional money, and ensuring that like the charges and expenses are where they need to be. Additionally, the last thing I cannot stress enough is your books, and your reconciliations are the most crucial component to running your business. Okay, when I first got started, believe it or not, but I had no idea how to reconcile a bank statement. I didn't know, like, they don't teach you this shit when you're going into sales. Like, and I'm sorry, but like the schools that I went to didn't teach about this shit. They literally were like teaching me about, really stupid shit. So it's like I didn't get to learn how to properly reconcile a bank statement to my like actual operations, and it took me a good year to teach myself how to properly do it in a way that was effective for my business. Okay, so like in that first year I went through so many growing pains, and I was like, holy shit, how the hell do I even do a reconciliation? And I can't stress the importance of knowing and understanding how to do a reconciliation correctly every single month. Okay, and that's why it's required in Florida to do these reconciliations every month, because of how important and crucial they are for brokers especially, and property managers and investors who are self-managing. Because if you're not doing those reconciliations and you don't know how to do it correctly, you are missing out on not only possible income for yourself, but you could be missing and overlooking expenses that are supposed to be charged to other people, properties, and maybe it's somebody else's responsibility that you need to now create a charge for. And that's why I love now, like, the reconciliation, and the bookkeeping, scrubbing them every single month, every single chance that you get. I also do an annual mini audit internally. So it's not like I go and I hire somebody to do an audit of my books, but I do scrub my books again at the end of the year, right before the tax season starts. And the reason that I do this is because when I'm scrubbing on my books, I'm actually able to locate any type of error that I overlooked when I was doing a reconciliation. Because believe it or not, but when you are doing reconciliations, there is a chance that you could still make an error. Okay, you could mismatch a expense to an incorrect property. There's so many ways that this could be made into an error, and it was reconciled. And that's why I say, just look at your books every single chance that you get, and really just go back and review them, because it's just even when you're doing your reconciliation, you have to understand that you're a human and you're subject to making errors. So it's just the whole point of you being there and looking at everything and reviewing everything is to catch those errors at some point. And that's again why I do the monthly reconciliations on top of the annual internal mini audits for myself, because I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at the leases, I'm looking at the charges, I'm looking at the late fees, I'm looking at everything, looking at the management fees, I'm looking at literally every single thing. I'm going back through every single receipt again and again and again, and this is so tedious. And if you don't have the time to do this because you're you're just you want to push this to a team and you don't want to do it yourself, you don't want to be in an operational role, you want to be more just kicking back and collecting role, then hiring a bookkeeper or a property manager like myself is the key component to be having this done. Okay, you could also hire a CPA, but having a CPA on your books from the get-go every single month is a huge overhead. You're looking at thousands of dollars possibly every single month. I mean, if you can get someone for a couple $100, that would be great. But then I would be a little bit concerned about the quality production. And I can't tell you how many times I've hired a CPA and they still fucked up my books. The only person that's ever been able to manage and mitigate my books has been me, and that's because I understand everything. I understand from the operational viewpoint of no, this expense was to this unit, and no, I remember doing that work order, and that's just kind of the whole reality of it. So sometimes you have to get somebody internally to come in and do the books alongside you and then give it to them, because if you have that CPA come in and then they're oh, I know how to do everything, how CPAs are, then they start to do it, then things are getting mismatched, they're maybe getting miscategories, not how you like them. So it's really essential to just have your organization down to a T before you're passing this on to somebody else, and also ensure that whoever you're bringing into your books is going to be able to learn from you. I've been teaching someone now for a year, and they're still getting it, and it's getting to the point where I can say with confidence, okay, yeah, go in and do something, and I know that they're going to do it correctly. Okay, it's not a quick and easy thing to just pass over to somebody. Your books are very, very sensitive, and if you already have a messy book, then you need to ensure that you're giving it to somebody who can look from a real estate. That's another important point, is you need somebody who understands real estate books, okay? Because that's a whole different category than your common business books. So this is honestly the most important points that I have to make to you guys when it comes to just ensuring that your overhead costs are being mitigated, and how to kind of tighten everything up so you can ensure that your profit margins are not getting dipped into that much. Because again, if you have clean books, if you're just ensuring that all of your systems are automated, they're energy efficient, and then also they're consolidated, then there's not much room that you have to make errors and overspend. So if you guys have questions or if you need help with bookkeeping, please comment down below, call or text us at 201-952-4665, or email us at broker@localpmc.com. I will see you guys on the next one, and have a good one. All right, bye.